Hi guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge. It's Fixed Blade Friday again. I finally have my Ganzo G8012 knife for you. Oh, I guess a little over a year ago, they had a version of this knife out that had serrations. I did a review of the knife then. I can't remember off the top of my head if it had 440C steel at that time. This guy's got 7CR17. Yes, that's my first kind of thing I wish was different. I wish this was at least 440C or better. I consider 7CR17 less than 440C. I don't like 7CR17 as much as 8CR13 MOV, to be honest with you. And if that's all mumbo jumbo to you, just forget it. It's a budget steel that is not super great. If you have a budget steel, you want it to be the best budget steel you can get, right? Or you can get a mid-grade steel or a super steel or whatever. All those are better. But in the budget class, you want to get the best you can get. And 7CR17 isn't too terribly high on that list. So that's the first knock against this knife. The second knock against this knife is my own. I figured that this knife was able to be disassembled. There's a little Torx screw hole right there. So I figured you can unscrew this to undo it from the tang and then be able to disassemble the knife, right? And so I'm trying to do it and it's just a little too hard to do. So I finally wrap it in a few layers of tape, and I grab my vice grips on it, and oh, it's starting to turn, snap. I busted it clean off the tang. And so then it's totally free. So I mixed up some epoxy and slathered the tang up with epoxy and stuck the blade back into the handle. And it's rock solid now. And then I was looking on the internet for more of that information about taking it apart. And I found the Russian site, and the Russian site says, do not take it apart. It has a very special material in there with it's sort of a Loctite on steroids, so that it never ever is supposed to come apart. And that's why I broke it. Okay, let's get back to the knife. You got a big not thick, but you've got this black coating on it. On all four of the color versions of this, you can get it in a black. You can get it in a coyote with black accents on either end, the bolster and the foot here, the end. Why is my brain drawing a blank? You can get it with orange, you can get it with green. So those four colors. So they're calling this a survival knife, and it says right there, Ganzo survival knife. It's got a fire striking section here. The sheath comes with they made that good, better than the previous version, a style that they had. But it doesn't fall out even though it's pointing down. I don't think it's going to ever fall out. So you get your striking ferro rod. It doesn't fall out if you put it in all the way. You can strike your ferro rod right there, and sparks go flying. And the handle's really good. We've got hard ABS plastic here, hard ABS plastic here where these green stripes are. Those greens are supposed to be luminescent in the dark if they've received enough sunlight to get sort of charged up. Then this main section here with these lines in it, that's sort of a TPE, so it's a little bit soft. Really, really good grip. The one thing that I really love on this knife is that grip on there. And yes, this is basically in the style of a Bear Grylls knife by Gerber. Very much in that style. Yes, usually when I do Ganzo knife reviews, I don't mention any other brands of knives. And that's because when I was a Ganzo reviewer, they asked me not to. And that was an easy enough thing to give into. And but Ganzo had dropped me. And they dropped me unceremoniously. And I don't know why. I've been a great reviewer for them, always promoting them positively, doing some really good stuff. I don't think I ever lied on a video. I'm I find that very serious. When I'm a reviewer, I very seriously want to do the most honest review I possibly can. But, I tried to follow the things that they wanted me to do within those parameters of staying honest and objective. And suddenly this past spring, they just stopped answering my emails, and I've tried dozens of times, and, they just don't talk to me. And, a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago, their person Den on Facebook posted that they're looking for reviewers. Well, I've contacted them 5 times since then, even on Facebook, and they don't answer my texts, my emails, nothing. My comments on Facebook, nothing. They don't answer anything of mine. And so I've got no idea what's going on with them. I still generally like their products. Well, I like their products as much as I always did. Any of my older reviews of Ganzo knives, my enthusiasm for the knife itself is great. My enthusiasm for some of the staff that they have there, not so much anymore. But the brand and the products, I really like them still. Let's get back to this knife. So yeah, the epoxy's in there. It's had time to cure, and I've given it like 3 days to cure. So it's really, really good condition. So we'll be testing this knife. I'm sure some of this paint will come off. Oh, I was talking about survival knife. I ramble sometimes. Since it's a survival knife, that means you're going to need to take this thing outside and maybe use it to do a little bit of work with wood. Thankfully, it's got a flat grind, so high saber grind. It's a little hard to see in this light, but there's a flat section here, and then the grind starts right where my fingernail is. And so going down, you've got that grind coming down already. So it's a nice high saber grind. That's a good thing. And then your final grind right there. A little bit more about the sheath. You've got this sort of ballistic nylon kind of belt loop here. Very large, which means it's kind of going to be a little loose and floppy on your belt. You've got Velcro up here. I hate that. Put a snap in the thing already. And then you've got this sort of hard plastic ABS sheath with a sort of TP overmold. So it's a little bit soft, really good texture. So if you just have to pick this thing up somewhere, even if your hands are all wet and stuff, you're going to get a good grip of it and be able to pick it up. And down here, we've got 2 blades that you can see. You can unscrew them from here and switch, and then take them out and sharpen them if you need to or whatever. When mine arrived, they were this one piece of metal on this side was loose, and so it wasn't even sitting in the right spot. All I did was undo these 3 screws, put it back in place, tighten it back up, and it works just great. There's a little bit of a hole there for a loop, so you can, if you're wearing this on your belt, you could put some cordage on here and wrap it around your leg if you want to give it some more stiffness. And as I said earlier, it has a really good retention for this ferro rod, so I don't mind that it's upside down. We'll find out how well you can hold this little thing in hand when we go outside and test it. And so that's what I'm ready to do. I'm ready to go outside, do some tests on this, record that, and then we'll come in and I'll record the rest of the review for you, so stick around. Before I get this thing all dirty, I will do the specs and everything and talk a little bit more about this knife. I wish the belly right here was a little more shallow. Not too terribly much, but a bit more shallow. It's nice to have a nice big belly if you're going to need to skin something, and that's good in a survival knife, but a little bit more shallow would have made it, I think, a little bit more well-rounded as a survival knife, because a survival knife has to do everything from, self-defense, maybe against, in the southern half of the United States, a boar. You might have to protect yourself against a wild boar. Pretty common. You might have to protect yourself against a rabid coyote in some parts of North America. All kinds of things. So a little bit more shallow would be a little bit better as a stabbing instrument. I don't know what this coating material is. I think it's probably just a black paint of some kind. Nothing special, nothing particularly durable or anything, and we'll see when we do those tests outside. And I did test these strips here on other Ganzo products. They absorb very little energy, reflect very little light. Let's talk about the specs on this thing. Cutting edge measured diagonally across from the base of the blade to the tip here, 10.8 centimeters, 4¼ inches. The blade length, very much the same. Blade thickness, 4.44 millimeters, 0.1735 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, so on this knife here, that silver area, is 0.75 millimeters. That's 0.295 inches. Perfect. That's something they got perfect. On a fixed blade, a flat grind of this size, 3/4 of a millimeter is perfect there. It gives it enough strength that it should last with a lot of rough encounters. It shouldn't bend or tip, chip, or whatever on the edge of the blade. And yet it's thin enough that it's going to cut for a fair while before you need to sharpen it up again. If you get too thin and too light, it just has no strength behind it and less durability as well. So that's really good. And the grind that they did, equal grind all the way around. And that's done, very well. I'm not sure if they've got a machine that's doing this or if it's by hand. I probably think they've got a machine doing this, which is why it's so consistent all the way across. But I'm doing measurements. Handle thickness, 1.85 centimeters at the thickest point right here. It gets thinner back here and then widens again. That's a really good thing with that it's changing in thickness this way. That helps it really fill the hand very well and give that very, very good grip that you get in this thing. The grip area, so measured from where my fingernail is to where my fingernail is on this side, 10.6 centimeters, 4.2 inches. Total length of this knife from the end of this pommel to the tip of the blade, 24.4 centimeters, 9.6 inches. The weight of the knife, 203 grams. That's including my epoxy, which is probably maybe 3 grams. 7.2 ounces. The sheath is 5 ounces, so 344 grams for the whole kit, 12.2 ounces for the whole thing. Price you're going to pay for this, I suggest you go get it at GearBest for $23.51 US, and that's $29.13 Canadian. Right now they're having their big harvest sale. What are they calling it? I'll splash it across the screen right now. With that sale going on, use coupon code GBHarvestO, not 0, O. GBHarvestO. You're going to get yourself a good discount. I think it's 10 or 15% off on everything that's regular priced. Don't use the coupon codes on things that have a flash sale because your price is actually probably going to go up. It's just weird how their computer works. If you use a coupon code, it does the discount off of the regular price. So if you've got some items in your cart that are flash sale and some items in your cart that are regular price, order all your flash sale stuff separately from your other stuff. Do 2 orders. And regular price stuff, use that coupon code GBHarvestO and you're going to get yourself a good discount. That discount ends mid-September 2017, something like that. Try it until it stops working. It's what I say for all of your knives, not just this knife. GBHarvestO, that works for anything in the outdoor section of the GearBest store. Okay, I'm not going to do an awful lot of outdoor stuff. Hopefully my head is on this shot. But if you've got this knife, you might need to get some fire prep done. And I strongly suggest against using it to baton a big thick piece of wood. Instead, just baton a small piece off the edge. Preserve your blade as long as you can. Those of you who are familiar with my channel know that advice. Especially in a genuine survival situation, you want to keep your blade nice as long as you possibly can. So let's try to baton something a little over 1 inch wide, and that'd be about the maximum I would suggest. Well, that was easy. Let's try a different species of wood. This is actually, again, pretty small, but the same thickness again. There we go. That's better. That worked very well. And that's because, as I mentioned when we were inside, the geometry of this is perfect. We get that high flat grind, the perfect thickness on the edge, and, you know, it's allowing this steel type to perform better than it might on some other knives. Let's baton something really big. This is actually a piece of 2x8 that's been cured for a long time. Okay, so it does work quite well. It works well to do simple batoning on soft wood, and that's all that I would suggest you do. Here we've got some harder wood. I'm not sure what this... I'm testing two things right now. Does it get hot at all in the hand? Well, not getting hot in the hand. Nothing wrong with the edge yet. Let's use this spine, see if we can rub some bark. Well, when I do more pulling against that section that's been ground for a blade, for a ferro rod, that's working pretty good. So we've got a good piece of edge right there to do some of those kind of tasks. Let's see if we can make a bit of a feather stick. Well, this kind of wood here that's cured, I can very easily make a big pile of small pieces of wood. Let's try a different brand of wood. Wood comes in brands. This piece here, let's see if I can make a feather stick from this stuff. I'm just going to blame my technique. I haven't done this for a couple weeks, and this hand is very, very sore with arthritis right now. These two knuckles here are just, I'll try it with this hand here. I'm just not good at making feather sticks with my right hand, which is why I should practice with my right hand more, right? I hear somebody saying that, and you're absolutely right. Because practice is what gets you ready to survive a bad situation. And you never know when you're out there if you're going to get an injury or something, right? In one hand and the other. So anybody who's really into survival, if you are not into training yourself to be as ambidextrous as possible, you're missing out on an important step. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, making pretty decent feathers. Hopefully it focused on that. The last thing to test here is that ferro rod. I'm not actually going to try to light a fire. I'm just going to see how good these sparks are. Make a big mess. Yeah, I can't get a good thing going. It's making fairly good sparks. My beef with this is it's too short. If this is the only thing you have, you might be able to get yourself a fire started. Of course, I would make a much better nest of stuff before I would try in the real wilderness, in the real wild. But they could have easily made this a whole lot longer. An inch, adding an inch to this would make a world of difference. That would only add about 1/3 to the length. And, you know, they had room definitely to... Let's put that in there. I do like the retention of that. They could have easily made it an inch longer and had it still on here. And that would make it much better for actually starting a fire out in the wild. So it passes all these tests outside here, as long as you don't push your knife too far. 7CR17 can't handle, you know, the same kind of stuff like a D2 or better yet, a carbon steel. My steel for a survival knife is always going to be a carbon steel. Like if you need to go budget, you know, 1075, 1095, something cheap like that. So yeah, nice knife. One change to a better steel would make this a much higher recommendation. It could get actually very high. You know, a better steel at the same price. Whew. But right now, it's a soft recommend. Here you go. As I said, get it from GearBest. Use my links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, and all that good stuff. I especially like your comments and your subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Click on that little bell icon so that you'll be notified of every video, and YouTube will not unceremoniously unsubscribe you, unscrupulously unsubscribe you. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, always cut towards your chum and not your thumb.